What's up, you guys? My name's Ian. Thanks for checking out episode 2 of Ion Motive. Today, I'm going to be telling you guys about one of the most powerful lessons my dad has ever taught me. I try to implement it pretty much anywhere in my life. It's a great lesson, and it's a pretty funny story, too. So, with that being said, let's get into it. I'm going to tell the story of how this went down. So, I was probably 13 or 15 or so, somewhere around there. It was the middle of the winter. I was just chilling at home. So by then I was in high school. I probably had worked out earlier in the day, doing homework, whatever. There was a lot of snow on the ground, especially in our driveway and on our sidewalk. And it never occurred to me that I should just go out and shovel the snow, snow blow our driveway. The thought never crossed my mind at all. Later that day, my dad came home. He saw that I had not shoveled, I had not snow blowed, I did not do any of that at all, because like I said, the thought did not cross my mind. And I don't know if he had a bad day at work, I don't know what the deal was, but he came in and he found me, and I remember him just going off on me. Now, this is really funny because my dad is not one to yell. If you've ever met him, he's a pretty chill dude. He's super laid back most of the time. So this was a shock, because it's one of the only times I can really remember my dad actually yelling at me. I never really got into trouble or anything, never too much to where he had to yell. So this was just a huge surprise. And I remember him yelling because I hadn't done the driveway. He just came up to me and said, basically, that I was not a go-getter and that I needed to be one. He should not have asked, nor should my mom have asked, for me to go out and shovel the driveway. He was working all day. I should have just been the one to do it. I should have been the one to take care of it, and it should never have been an issue. He shouldn't have to come home and shovel it. It should have been me. No one had to tell me to do this. He said I just needed to go do it. I remember at the time taking this kind of personally. Like, I was a pretty hard worker. I had worked out earlier in the day, probably. I had been doing my homework. I had school for 7 or 8 hours before, so I didn't even think about doing it, like I said. And hearing that I wasn't much of a go-getter really hit me. And the lesson didn't really click, but it was one of those things that I've had in the back of my mind forever. I don't even know what happened after this. I don't know if I went out and did it. I don't know if he went out and did it. I don't know if we both went out and did it. But the memory is still there. The memory of him yelling at me, the lesson from him yelling really stuck with me. But it never clicked, like I said. The whole thing just seemed really, really bizarre at the time. I thought I was a hard worker, and it just seemed really odd to me. But I always had, and I still have, that memory in the back of my mind. So fast forward to about 6 months ago, nothing had really changed. I still had that memory in the back of my head. But it still just seemed very kind of bizarre. And it wasn't until I read this book, which my dad, I'm pretty sure, recommended to me back then, but I never got my hands on it till about 6 months ago, called The Go-Getter by Peter B. Kyne. It says, a story that tells you how to be one. And when I read this, by the way, it's a super short read. It took me about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, but kind of an older book. Anyways. Once I read it, the message and the time my dad yelled at me from before really clicked in my head. Without going too much into the book or spoiling the ending, there's this character who is asked to do a seemingly impossible task, and he's basically set up to fail, but he ends up doing everything in his power to succeed. He does whatever he can to achieve this goal that he's asked to achieve. Not only that, but he also does so without asking anybody for permission on anything. He just goes out and does whatever is necessary. After reading this book, that time where my dad came at me really made sense. It finally clicked, the whole story came full circle. I didn't need anybody to tell me. I should have just gone out and did it. I should have just gone out, shoveled our driveway, snowblowed our driveway, because that's just what go-getters do. They don't wait for anybody to tell them what to do. They just go out and get the job done. The best part about reading this book was that it helped me realize how much my dad is a go-getter. So he, one, will do whatever is necessary to achieve his goals, achieve success. But two, he does so without asking anybody for permission or anybody for guidance. He just goes out and gets the job done. He sacrificed time with his family to provide us with great opportunities for me and my family to play sports, for them to dance, for my sisters to dance, for us to travel, for us to do all of these great things. He even started a bar at the age of 62 years old, right? That's insane to most people. Most people would be like, no, put that money aside, go put it towards retirement, go save it and go on vacation. But no, he's a go-getter. So he wanted to start another business because he can. He just went out and did it. It's kind of funny now because I think a lot of times when you're young, at least in my family, and I know a lot of my friends' families, their mom, my mom, is the one to, drive us to sports, take us to school, whatever it may be, get us where we need to, feed us. But as you grow up, you realize how much your dad does as well, and how much I realized as I've grown up over the years how much my dad has done for my family. And I'm extremely thankful for that. I'm extremely thankful for the lesson he taught me. I try to implement it everywhere in my life. Sometimes I'm a little late to do the dishes or, putting salt in the softener at my family's house. But it's a great lesson, and I'm glad he taught me when he did. The best part about this lesson, I think, is how applicable it is to pretty much any situation in life. So obviously, it works for sports or exercise. So doing whatever you need to be successful, running an extra mile, running an extra lap, doing an extra rep in the gym. It's also applicable for work, staying late even when nobody asks you, so you do better. It's also extremely valuable in everyday life or relationships. So, like I said, helping my parents do the dishes without them asking. People notice that kind of stuff, or, just whatever it may be. Being a go-getter is, people notice it, and it's insanely valuable. So thankful for this lesson my dad taught me. As I said, I'm not perfect with it, and I'm trying to be, but that's all you can do. To wrap this up, I highly recommend reading this book. It's, like I said, super short. It's a great story though, and I'm super happy I read it. I'm super happy for the lesson my dad taught me years ago. I really appreciate that he did that, but I also appreciate all he does for my family. He's a great guy to look up to. I hope you enjoyed this podcast / YouTube video, wherever you're watching or listening to it. If you're on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're on podcast, make sure to subscribe and leave that 5-star review. I got more stuff coming soon. But that's all I got for you guys today. Remember, live a charged life.